And hello, everybody. My name is Jim West, and along with me is Dale Ross, and we are with Talking Preps OT. Welcome aboard. Dale, it can't be week 10. We're going to start week 10, right? Is it crazy or what? It just seems like.
That's right. We're getting there.
Golly, next thing you know, I'm going to be drawing my AARP card. Well, sorry about that. I already got my AARP. So I guess we got a guest coming along.
Yep. Let's get him on. Let's get him on in here.
Jalen, what's up, man?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Oh, pretty good. I'll tell you what, I wish I had your frame. I mean, you probably have maybe 3-4% body fat. You're all slim. And here I am, a middle, mid-50s, all fat and everything, man. Welcome aboard. I will let Dale take over because he has a lot of questions for you.
Well, goodness, Jalen. So I've picked up a nickname of West Side or Southwest Dale. And that's because of, obviously, I live here in the Southwest, and maybe somebody within our community seems to think I think too much about Southwest. I used to only be known as Olympic Dale. And just a little piece of information for you, online, I used to be known as ODad. So when people interfaced with me, they knew me as ODad online. So, and the O is from Olympic. All right, so throw those numbers back up for us, and let's see what you had. A bunch of tackles, 15 tackles. Is that a season high for you?
Yes, sir, that is.
All right. Go ahead and tell us about it. What's do you play any offense as well, or just defense?
No, sir. I'm not really the offensive type of guy. I like to come down and I like to hit. I like to hit a lot. I would say my play style is more of a communicator, and I say one of the leaders of the defense. Somebody that gets, and other roles I play as well as punt return. I'm on the edge. Hey, can definitely take your gunner out of bounds if I need to.
So you don't mind delivering a good block, just like yes, you don't mind delivering a good hit. It sounds like.
Yes, sir.
That's the fun part about defense, is being able to hit. You get to make some pretty dynamic hits playing a cornerback as well.
Yes, sir.
All right. How are you on pass coverage?
Pass coverage this offseason, I would say last season, I've improved a lot on pass coverage. Technique, IQ, instincts, all of that. I feel like I've improved a lot. And shout out to my trainer, Coach Mack. He coaches at Providence. I get a big shout at him. Without him, I don't know where I'd be right now with my technique. My technique has improved a lot. And I feel now I have the confidence to guard guys that run 4'5", 4'6", 6'2". Anybody can guard anybody.
I hear you got good hips, and I hope you'll have to have them, right?
Yes, sir.
Head on a swivel and good hips. Two important attributes of it.
I got to add something right here, Dale. Dale, I just got to ask you: Doesn't Jalen give you just a little bit of like a Ronnie Lott type of vibe to him?
Ronnie Lott.
I don't know if he knows who.
I don't know if he knows who Lonnie. Anything about Lott?
Ronnie Lott.
Very high.
Yeah, I don't know if you know anything about him. Do you?
Hybrid free safety, I say.
49ers, yep.
And pretty much do it all.
So you know a little bit about him then, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was gonna say go watch some film.
I just like your confidence, and you're straight, and with us, and just everything about you just reminds me of Ronnie Watts. I mean, just talking to you, and also just the film here.
Yes,
and of
sir.
course, being at the willingness to hit. There's a nice hit.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So a few questions along those lines. You were talking about you got a tackle for loss, and one of the reasons that you said was your ability to read. And was it an RPO that you were reading at the time?
Yes, sir. It was an RPO.
Okay. And along those lines, how much film do you study?
I study a lot of film, and another key factor in me knowing what plays are coming in instincts is our new defensive coordinator, John Lamont, Boston College alum. He's been, I pick his brain here and there. He's been there and done it all. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to learn from him, it's a blessing in disguise. Honestly, he knows how to break down tape to us as a defense and all of that. He can coach you on the fly at any time in any period of the game.
I was going to watch this play here. Ooh. All right, so let's get back to your play and game film. Football IQ is a pretty important aspect of the game, and that's where a lot of players fail, is understanding what they're supposed to do on the field. And that means in any alignment situation, being able to read a quarterback, being able to read a wide receiver even. So tell me the keys that you look for in a quarterback to know whether he might be coming your way, and a receiver. Does a receiver give himself away in that he's going to be a primary target, or he's just going to kind of be lazy and he's not part of the picture?
Well, the answer to that is I study the quarterback a lot more than usual, and down and distance, I'd say more. If the ball's on the right hash and I'm on the right side of the field, I would expect the ball to come my way, because no quarterback's throwing from the right hash all the way to the left sideline. That's just common sense in my eyes. That's how I think about it. And receivers, they don't like the block. We all know they don't like the block. So they're gonna come off the ball lazy, and as soon as when they know they're getting the ball, I know when they're getting the ball, but based off their releases and the speed, they're coming off the ball.
So I'm going to tell you something about that. Receivers don't like the block. My youngest son, my oldest son played center. My youngest son was a wide receiver. Now, he was not fast, so he didn't play much. He had good hands, and what he really was good at was stalk blocking. And he taught. Actually, he helped teach a receiver that went on to play and start at NC State. So he helped teach him some technique of blocking. Now, so not all receivers are against blocking. I've seen some really good receivers come through in our time that are love that opportunity to be able to stand a corner up or stand a free safety up if they can. Now, some they just, you're right. They don't want to get involved in that. And they're also the guys that are the alligator arms as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Those are the selfish. I feel like those are the selfish guys of the team. Hey, if you can't block as a receiver, you don't belong on the field. That's how I always see it. I love when a receiver can block. I love it. It gives me competition on block destruction. I love it.
I hear you. Okay. Well, before we let you go, how many interceptions you have this year? Do you have any yet?
I currently have 0 so far. Dropped one against West Cabarrus, man. That was a tough game for us, but I feel as though that was my best game in coverage and tackling. That was my best game so far this season. Most memorable.
Don't drop them, man. You gotta, talk to those receivers about how to catch.
I don't like that stereotype of DBs can't catch. Us DBs can catch now.
Sometimes the DBs have the best hands on the field. So
exactly.
And what about pass block? PBUs? Do you have any of those?
I have 2 on the season so far. I'm rarely targeted, so hey,
Okay.
I take that as an accomplishment. I'm rarely targeted. I currently have 0 touchdowns allowed on my side of the field.
Good deal. Jim, you got any questions for him?
Well, Jalen, just out of curiosity, what's your favorite subjects in school right now?
My favorite subject, I say I like history a lot. History and English.
English, okay, I got you. Well, that's awesome. Me and Dale are big history buffs. We just about any type of subject we like talking about history, as long as it doesn't get past about the 17th century or so. Anything past then, that bores me. But anyway, it's always good to have a history buff.
Yes, sir.
I love history all the way back to at least the 10 Years' War. Yeah, history's just great. So that's phenomenal.
I feel like you always have to know what's happened before you was here and what's going on right now.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, Jalen, it's just so great to have you, man. It's just you're a junior, so you got another year or so. Another question I was going to ask you about. I know you're in a leadership position. How do you mentor your underclassmen to improve, to practice? Is it a challenge for you?
Not really. They're at Olympic. They're very coachable. They're very coachable in my eyes. Very coachable. You know, the things I really teach them the most is time and eyes and technique mainly. Because I feel like on the team, people look at me for technique at the DB position, because people may not have the technique, but they may have the hit power. And some people may just have the athleticism, not the technique. I'm the guy. And then there's other people I look at on the team that may have the hit power, and I'm looking at them asking questions as well. I'm not the biggest leader. I'm at the top dog, but I'm very encouraging to the underclassmen and upperclassmen as well.
Yeah, that thing is called leadership, and that's something that's innate, and it's always good to have someone that's a leader on a football program. I'm sure your coaches love having you on the roster. So, Jalen, we wish you the best and hope you have a great time in the playoffs. Who do you play next week?
We play Philip O'Berry. This is the game to clinch the conference title.
Okay, I got you. Well, I hope the best for you. I think you guys got a special thing going on there, and so you're 6-2 right now. So you got Berry, and who do you have the last week?
Hickory Ridge.
Okay, I got you.
Hickory Ridge.
Well, great, Dale. I don't have anything else unless you got something for him.
No, I don't. A lot of luck, Southwest dude.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
All right, take care, sir.
All right, you guys too.
Hey, this is Chris Hughes, host of the Observer's Talking Preps. Proud to say that our show is growing and growing and growing, and we've got a brand new schedule. Mondays at 8 p.m., get our Players of the Week. No more waiting. Then on Tuesday, 8 p.m., catch me and Sam and all the guys of the #1 show in high school football in North Carolina, Talking Preps. Wednesdays, 8:30, Dale Ross and Jim West will host Talking Preps OT Live, talking about statewide issues, trends, and interacting with viewers. And don't miss our post-game show Fridays at 11 p.m., where we wrap up all of the night's actions. At Talking Preps, we've got you covered all week.
So last week, where'd you go to? What game did you go see? And was there anything interesting that occurred in it?
It was 2 teams went to, there's a debate whether it's West Cary or Morrisville. It's Green Hope. If you go on their site, I think it says Morrisville. If their mail is a Cary address, even the school, they don't know if they're in Cary or Morrisville, but it's all incestuous in Wake County. It was Green Hope versus Willow Spring, which is going towards Fuquay, Farina. And 2 teams, both of them rate A. They're both they're going to be barely in the playoffs. Or probably, there's 24 teams in the 8A. You're probably looking at the 21st to the 24th or so best teams in the 8A. And Willow Spring had more talent, but I'll tell you what, I love how Green Hope plays because they play with their mind. That first drive, they get the ball, and they held the ball for 10 minutes and 3 seconds. And just a lot of running plays, a lot of little short 4 or 5 yard passes, just moving the chains around. Not a very pretty game, don't get me wrong. Both teams played really ugly. A lot of penalties, a lot of drop passes. Well, not too many drop passes, some blown assignments here and there. Fumble here and there, But just overall, just two very evenly matched teams. And Willow Spring, they actually scored a touchdown with 38 seconds left to win that game 24-21. And Dale, you went to even a better game, I bet you, didn't you?
A more interesting game,
yeah.
Maybe.
More high profile.
It was a high profile game, certainly. It was a high profile game for what could have really sealed the conference championship for Palisades. Now Palisades has got a hope, there's a game coming up between Providence and Ardrey-Kell, which if Ardrey-Kell were happen to win, will give us potentially a 3-way tie for the conference championship. There are still 2 games to go, but in this game, Jim, it really started out not in Providence's favor. Palisades played it kind of so-so in the first half, and then really in the second half through the third quarter just kind of widened out to a 3-touchdown lead. And that lead held until 8-something in the fourth quarter. I can't remember the exact time point that Providence got the first score, but it was somewhere in the 8-minute mark of time. So most of the game obviously is behind us, and there's a little over 8 minutes left in the game, and all of a sudden Providence mounts a tremendous comeback. And it was on the back of several different things, one of which was there's a great catch here. This was just a phenomenal throw and catch and for touchdown. There were a number of, I will say, issues that Palisades kind of shot themselves with penalties. But the biggest thing, Jim, is Providence never quit in this game. Now, this was a play after an unsportsmanlike conduct. Right here, the ball would have been back at the 35. And this is the play that ties or sets up the touchdown with the PAT to tie the game. So, it was a very interesting ball game. And it's one of a series of games that was in our observer picks last week. And I missed this game. Now, this was not, I believe, I was wrong kind of moment, because
no,
I felt like
this was going to be a close one.
Yeah, this was a really close ball game.
Could have gone either way.
Into the game, right? It went OT. But here, if we look at things, everybody to the left of Nate had a horrible week. Bunch of us went 2-4. Chris went 1-5. We didn't do too well in our picks last week. And
Catholic losing to Marvin Ridge kind of surprised me. But going back to that Providence Palisades game, there was one thing that I noticed on that film that I was really disappointed in was the attendance of that game. I was looking at the visitors' side. There was it looked like there was a lot of empty seats. Am I wrong about that, or just didn't seem like a lot of people?
You're 100% correct. Providence did not show up.
I mean, that's the thing about it is if you're going to support a team, or you have kids that go to a school, do yourself a favor, get them to the school, even if it's a away game. I mean, I don't know how far Providence and Palisades are. They're probably fairly close to each other. I mean, go to the games.
It would take you, just depending on traffic, probably 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. But when Providence was in conference with Olympic back in the 2000s, one of the biggest attended games during that time frame was Olympic Providence. Providence always showed up for those games. And when I say showed up, I mean the visitors side at that point in time had the old Johnson C. Smith University home bleachers. Wooden bleachers were the visitors' bleachers. Very bad shape. I ended up calling talking to the fire marshal and having them come out to inspect, and they were ready to condemn the stadium. And that's what it took. That's what it took to get that fixed, and a few other things. But the fans filled those stands up. So I don't know, Jim. It was not good attendance.
It's just a disappointing thing, because I remember earlier on in the season, I went over to Panther Creek, and they were hosting Hoggard. And I mean, you know our geography. Hoggard's about 2 hours away from Panther Creek over in Cary. And there was 3 times as many fans from Hoggard than you saw just there at Providence at Palisades. And I don't like giving fans hard times. The ones that attend, thank you so much. For those of you that try to find reasons to not go to a game, you really need to come out there and show some community support. These kids deserve it.
Exactly. Now, because of last week, were a number of things that happened, as you saw in those picks. And I haven't done this in a while. But, I wasn't right this past week.
I'm taking my glasses off because this is not for the faint of heart. And I'm faint today.
I don't know. That's right, folks. I was wrong. Now, there were a number of picks that I missed this past week that really could have. Catholic Marvin Ridge, I really didn't think that game would be. I didn't think Marvin Ridge would win, but I thought Catholic might win it by 2 scores. But it was ended up being a close game. Marvin Ridge wins. It's not one I really want to classify. I was wrong in that, just like I was wrong in everything that I picked wrong. But Jim, I was wrong, big time wrong, in the Mallard Creek Independence game, and so wrong that I have to do something I haven't done in a while. And Langston was asking, "You going to do your hot sauce thing?" So I'll pour me a nice, as you can see there. Okay. That's good. How was I wrong? Or why was I, or do I consider myself to be this wrong?
Well, personally, I think it was wrong for you to take that shot, but anyway, I digress.
Mallard Creek's statement about Mallard Creek is defense, always defense. So, looking at this game, I thought physicality might be an issue for Independence. And, of course, a defense like Mallard Creek can present. I didn't think that Independence I felt like they would score. But I was thinking this was going to be a 21-14 maybe kind of game, something like that. I didn't think Mallard Creek was going to dominate the game, but I felt like their defense would be able to hold Indy enough to allow their offense to score enough, and maybe even their defense end up getting a score or something, a special team score or something, that they would be able to take this game. So where all was I wrong? Wow. First of all, Mallard Creek didn't hold Independence to 7 or 14. Independence scored 35 points. Second, Independence held Mallard Creek to nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, that's a big swing, offensively and defensively, from what I thought would happen in this game. And thus why the hot sauce, which, I can do that because I like hot sauce. That might be rough on some people. Maybe as I get older, this will get rougher. I haven't done this in a while, Jim, but I have done this before in the past on the Talking Preps. I've eaten crow before, smothered in hot sauce. I might even do that. I just didn't have any crow available, but I can have some tomorrow to do, and so we might clip in a little bit of crow into this. We'll see how this goes. But Jim, I was wrong. I'm not afraid to admit I was wrong. Karen Belk, you're watching. I know you told me I would be wrong going into the game last week. So I'm sure you'll be watching. And DJ, congrats on your team, not just scoring points. I don't think anybody questions your ability on offense. And I just thought that defense would play better. But it turns out your defense did a fantastic job. And, I always say one of the best defenses is an offense. And if you shut down another team's offense, you put a whole lot of burden all on the defense. And apparently that defense broke, Jim. The Mallard Creek defense did.
Yeah, it seemed like it. The one thing with Andy, especially since DJ's been there, they always seem to get stronger at the later end of the season. It just seems like, you remember the last couple of years, Indy's one of those teams where like, oh my gosh, they have really come alive, I wonder if that was a sign that this Indy team is ready to come alive and maybe make a lot of noise in the 7A playoffs. I don't know, but just have the kind of vibes to me.
Well, the thing you got to give thought to is that if there was anybody meant to coach Independence High School right now, it's DJ. He's the right person. He is part of the tradition that is a strong tradition under Tommy Knotts. He played right there, kind of in the middle to the latter part of the half. Actually, probably the latter. You would have to say the latter portion of the run. He was after Leak and Cox. He was the next quarterback up. Different type of quarterback, different type of leader. Good at both. He's a tough on the field, hard-nosed runner. A kid you didn't want to get him for a quarterback. You didn't want to come running at you. He's like having a fullback coming at you. But the thing that he's done, Jim, is he has brought the tradition, that legacy that has helped move Independence through the Knotts years. That kind of got. Now, Joe Evans did a good job of maintaining it,
yeah.
and Coach Geiler, Evans. I mean, they all kind of maintained that legacy, and then it kind of got lost, and that's a shame. Harden coached 1 year, and then was off.
Then you had the Tully for a few years.
Yep, it just it become not independence, and now it's independence. Immediately when DJ came in, it became independence again from a mentality point. They just had to put everything together.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like DJ quite a bit. He has a good vision. I think he's everything that's right about high school football, and I love how he embraces tradition, just like you said.
Yeah, there was I think a lot of the Tommy Knott's era stuff had been taken down in the locker room, from what I understand. It was like, let's forget about it. I understand coaches wanting to develop their own tradition, but when you got to run like what Independence had, you can't forget that.
Well, it reminds me back in the early 80s when Bear Bryant stepped down. He retired in December of 82. Within a month, he was dead. And his replacement, Ray Perkins, wanted to distance himself away from that tradition. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have much success. And then Bill Curry, who I love Bill Curry, he's a great man. He's a better man than he is a coach. And he's just a really good fellow. And he embraced it too much. And then you get a guy like Gene Stallings comes in there, and he knew how to do this tradition the correct way and the modern way. And he honored Bear Bryant without it being looking superficial. There's a delicate line between embracing it too much and then ignoring it. DJ's hit it. He's like the modern day Gene Stallings to me.
If you don't embrace your tradition, if you have tradition, and you don't embrace it, you're going to alienate a lot of the alumni, and that's what happened when. That's what happened at Alabama, and to a degree, that's really what happened at Independence. It filters down into high school. People want to come back and see their program, and I understand coaches want to develop their own traditions, set their own standards, but you can't forget where you were. You just try to set a new standard that's equal or better than what you had. And so anyway, DJ, right man.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Okay, what's next on our plate?
I don't know. Let me ask you about this RPI stuff. I know we're probably going to talk about it at some point, but I'm still not a big fan of RPIs. I like having other better matrix than RPIs. It just seems to be, I don't know, just not a big fan of it right now. How about you? I like to see a little bit more analytics involved in it.
So the better thing to do would be to use, computer generated power rankings. Would be better than RPI.
Yeah.
I don't think RPI really, people seem to think your opponent's RPI is a strength of schedule, but it's
not. It's
not. There's no strength of schedule in any of this. So I hear that, and it's like, no, it's not, because strength of schedule is really how strong the teams are. How good are they? It goes back to, you remember those days when conferences might send one or two teams to the playoffs?
Oh, yeah.
And your conference all of a sudden is only going to send one team. But
maybe even early 90s you had that happen.
Exactly. And maybe even the third place team in your conference is better than a conference champion out of a conference ascending too.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
So you can't look at wins and losses. Wins and losses are important, but it's who you beat and who you lose to that matters.
Right.
You know, if you lose to a really weak team, that should reflect in your schedule. Just as if you beat a really weak team, you really shouldn't get a big boost out of that.
No, it's artificial. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and pull up some of the RPIs. Let's just I'm not really as interested in the bubble per se because the bubble still has a lot of fluctuation. I'm more interested about the teams that are going to get buys. And we'll start out with the 1A. There's 24 teams that in the 1A, and the top 8 teams, top 4 from each class, each region will get buys. I don't know, Dale, if you saw that victory by Kip Pride, but they just tore up the Southeast Halifax, which is that Southeast Collegiate Prep Academy. They beat them like 50-0. Kip Pride is a really good team. And, right now in the West is Robbinsville, and I really don't see any other team in the West that comes close to Robbinsville. I think you can almost write them in. I know Wilson Prep is 3-5, but I'll tell you what, it goes back to who you were playing. If you lose to some really good 7A teams like Wilson Prep played Clayton earlier on this season, and there's not one 1A team that's going to win against Clayton. They're going to lose against Clayton. And Wilson Prep, I mean, they play some probably the toughest strength of schedule of any of the 1A teams. I think they're probably the best in the East. Any thoughts about that?
No, not really, because in 1A, everybody's in the playoffs. I think we kind of got a disjointed point. Everybody that's going to get a bye are probably the ones that'll be playing later. I'm sure they will be the ones that'll be playing later.
Right.
I just don't think RPI, unfortunately, is especially not a good indicator here at all.
Right. And 1A, there's not many. There's only about 4 or 5 teams that are competitive. You get to 2A, you might have 10 teams that are pretty competitive. In the 2A, I think it's going to be a collision course between Tarboro and most likely Corvian. Although I'm sure Community School of Davison or even Murphy might have something to say about it. That third team listed up there, Allegheny, that's a really good team.
Yeah, I'm thinking the West is going to be a little bit tougher road for teams to make it to the final game. I think Tarboro's, I pencil them in already and tend to think Corvian is the favorite. But they got to get through some good teams. So
I was looking at the 2As, like in the East, Tarboro number 1, Warren County will go East. That's at number 6. North Duplin is 11. East Layton's 14. Those might be the buys, or 4 of the buys in that section. Corvian number 8. I'm sorry, but Corvian is a lot better than the 8th best team in the 2A. Just like we've been saying, beating the dead horse on that. But Corvian to me is the team to look out.
I think so too. I think Corvian and Tarboro. Can we scroll it down too?
Yeah.
See, I know you're more interested in who gets buys.
Right.
I am still.
And there's only 45 teams, and actually it might be just 42 teams, but every team
I think it's
gets
just
in the
42.
playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I think Lejeune might have something happened to Lejeune, I believe. I read something about they were competing, and okay, they're number 41 here. Okay, I gotcha. So but there's 45 teams in 2A. I don't know where the other 3 teams have gone to. Oh, here we go. There we go.
I thought it was 42. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a guest here.
Okay, let's go ahead and get our guest. Hey, there we go. We got Scott.
There we go.
I got off my school Wi-Fi and hotspotted my phone.
Scott, what's up, man?
How we doing, guys?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Happy Tuesday.
Is that what it is? This time of year, I lose track of what day it is sometimes.
It's Blur's Day. We'll just call it Blur's Day. We know it's not Friday, so it's got to be a Blur's Day.
I don't know if you heard me talking about your Marvin Ridge Catholic playoff game.
I didn't.
You didn't? So I was telling him because I think – I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said I'm sure the words Elijah Hood probably had to.
No. I didn't even say anything about Elijah. Actually, a better running back. So I was on your sideline, and I think I've told you this. And I saw this guy in a hoodie, about my height, better build than me. And I got a glimpse of his face, and I knew immediately who it was when I saw the hair and face. So I walked over, stood beside him, and I said, D'Angelo, you can't hide from everybody. And it was D'Angelo Williams. And he told me he was there. He had been working with your running back there at Marvin Ridge. So that's where I was at when you came on.
Gotcha.
Telling Jim about that time. That was the first time I'd seen your team in person, and about the time that you and I started really talking to each other because of.
No, those were really good years. Really good kids there. Great school, and had the chance to coach both of my sons there. So yeah, those were good years, and actually both of my last 2 years there were ended at Catholic in playoff games. So yeah.
Yep. You and I got to know each other right about that time, and then better we started talking when you left Marvin Ridge.
Well, I've always tried to. I appreciate what you guys do. You guys and Chris and Langston. I appreciate so much what you guys do to promote football in the States. I've always tried to do whatever I could to help and to make your job, a little bit easier. And, Matt Abrig over there in Union County just was very fortunate in my time at Marvin, and in Myers Park that had so many of you guys that really went out of your way to, promote high school football. And you correct me if I'm wrong, y'all aren't getting rich off this. So, I always tried to do what I could to help you.
Negative numbers if you really want to it.
Exactly. So Scott, just out of curiosity, do you live in Clayton, or you live in Wake County or Johnson County, or?
No, I live in Clayton. Yeah.
Clayton. Okay, good.
Yep.
Good man. Compare traffic between Charlotte and Clayton right now. I know Clayton doesn't have nearly as many people, but it's still a growing area, though. That place has just gotten so much bigger in the last 10 years.
It's a lot. Reminds me of when I lived in Waxhaw. Waxhaw being a very, very growing town.
Right.
When I lived there, Clayton's kind of the same deal. They always say small town living in Clayton, and I'm like, it's getting to be a big small town at this point. But fortunately, it is a place that still has its small town roots and loves high school football and loves football, at Clayton. And I'm sure Langston told you I couldn't do 7 o'clock because I have my own radio show here in town at one of the restaurants on Tuesday nights, which is kind of crazy to think about that, we could have our own radio show, but we have it every Tuesday night, and people show up at the restaurant, and people apparently listen online because we keep doing it every week. So,
a long time ago, Clayton used to be their biggest rivals used to be Gardner and Fuquay-Varina.
Yep.
And I guess they're probably not your biggest rivals anymore. It's probably Cleveland and Corinth Holders.
Yeah, obviously the longest rivalries are certainly, Garner. Matter of fact, we play them this week, and the guy on the when the radio show gave it, I think this will be the 44th time that Clayton and Garner have played, and I think Fuquay's probably close to that number as well. But now that you have, obviously more Johnson County schools, certainly Cleveland. I would tell you the Clayton-Cleveland rivalry is as raucous, whatever you want to call it, is as deep and intense rivalry as any that I've ever been a part of. I tell people back, it's more so than Marvin and Weddington, more so than Marvin and Audrey Kell was. It's definitely by far the biggest rivalry I think I've ever been a part of.
Well, a couple of years ago, I attended one of the Clayton-Cleveland games, and there was that time when the guy jumps out of the airplane and anyway delivers the game football. And I was like, that's pretty intense. I didn't know what was going on. I just saw everybody looking in the sky, and then I'm like, oh, looks like somebody's falling out of the plane, and realized.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Had
that was awesome.
Paratroopers come in. Yeah, we had them come in last year too. Haven't had them so far this year. Now I'm glad you mentioned that. I need to call the guy and ask him are they coming back this year.
So I'm gonna ask one last question. Then I'll let turn it over to Dale. What's your biggest? What do you think the biggest difference is between like triangle football, which I'm gonna say that where I live, Johnson County, Mecklenburg, Durham, Orange. That's all triangle football. What do you think the difference between triangle football is to like Mecklenburg County football?
Depth of the number of quality teams. I think in the Charlotte area there's just so many more. I think the best teams, in the triangle area can hang with the best teams in Charlotte, but there's just so many more of them, in Charlotte. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, the number of high quality teams in the Charlotte region it just never ends. I mean, you look where we are in the 7A, and I look over on what's going to be the 7A West, and you look at all the number of teams over there. Everybody's like, man, you got, Weddington and Independence and, Mooresville and all these teams. And I'm like, yeah, I only got to beat one of them. I'm glad I don't have to, go through the gauntlet of, I think the 1 year at Myers Park, we lost to Vance, in the regional final. And like to get to the regional final, we had beat Providence. We won at Butler, at Richmond County, and then played Vance. And I'm like, man, and then, I think we would have played Wake Forest in the finals, who Vance played in the finals. And like Wake Forest had, 3 teams that, quite honestly, we would have beaten handily, to get. So Wake Forest was just as good as anybody in the West. And that's what I mean, is that Wake Forest at that time was just as good as anybody in the West. They beat teams in the West to win. But the road that those teams in the West had to take to get to the championship game was so much more difficult than the road that Wake Forest had at the time.
That's why I kind of tell people is like in the 7A, 8A, even in 6A, you might have 4 or 5 really, really good teams in the East. You just don't have the depth as you do in the West. And but a lot of fun there. I mean, 7A is actually pretty loaded in the East. I mean, you got obviously Clayton, Cleveland. You got Cardinal Gibbons, Southeast Raleigh, Gardner.
Southeast Raleigh, Gardner. Our conference is just,
just loaded.
You look at, we beat South Garner a couple of weeks ago. They're going to finish 5th in our conference, and they've got a kid going to Notre Dame and a kid going to Georgia. And they're going to finish 5th in our conference.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's a really good conference.
Yeah. So, Coach, we had a guy with us, Jonathan Grice. Yeah, we're thinking about you, buddy. And he used to call the 4A West the Fight Club. And 7A now is definitely taking on that banner, as you say. It is a brutal path to get to the regional, or get to the regional, but to get to the finals to state. So there's so many things I wanted to ask you, but there's one of the big things, and I think one of the things that impressed me about you is the development of standards within a program and expectations of everyone as part of the program. So you've had to build programs at multiple places. Did a great job at Marvin Ridge. You took what many people felt like was a school that could do well, but just wasn't quite reaching those levels. And we're talking about Myers Park, and was able to build that. Can you talk about, and now you're at another place and another environment. Talk about building a program and putting your stamp of standard on.
I think you use a good word there, standards. I think every place I've gone in, even, the two schools I was a head coach in Maryland were very similar to what I, had at Myers Park, and that both of them were one place that had 10 straight losing seasons when I got there, and we won a state championship there. The other place, when I got to Lackey, they hadn't won a playoff game in 19 years when I got there, and we played for 2 state championships when I was there. So, and obviously, what Myers Park was like when I got there. Marvin was a brand new school when I got there. So I think, yes, I do have a plan that, I try to follow when building a program. And I think the first thing is you have to walk in and people have to know what your mission statement and what your objective is. Because once everybody knows what your mission statement is and knows what your objective is, they know why they're there. And, I've kind of picked up this second career a little bit on speaking to businesses and corporations and military groups on culture building. And that's one of the things I really hit on, is that whether it's a team, whether it's a business, whether it's a school, you have to have a mission statement and you have to have an objective so that everybody that's there and that's a part of that group or a part of that team knows why you're there and what it is you're trying to do. And I think that's the first thing. And then you have to talk about, okay, how are we going to go about our mission statement? And, at Myers Park and certainly at Clayton now, we have core values, things that we are going to, strive to be, and we have standards. I give Joe Evans a hard time all the time because, he always uses the standard and all that stuff at South Mexico. He stole that from me.
He stole that from you. Yeah.
Yes. He took, we did that. So we had at Myers Park. So he just kind of took it with him there. But no, we do have, certain standards of how we're going to do things on and off the field, how we're going to do things in the classroom, in the community. And I think once you establish what that mission statement is, once you have established what your objective is and the standards by which you're going to go to try to achieve that, I think you can have success. And I just, I've been fortunate that, those things have worked, and been fortunate that, people have bought into what, when you've had success with it, it tends to give you a little bit of credibility when you walk into a place and say, hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I need to find that video when I interviewed you and you talked to me about standard. And Joe was still on your staff at that time.
He was.
So there's no question. When I got over and I had my first interview with Joe, and I've known Joe a long time, and I had my first interview with Joe, and he told me #the standard. And I thought, and I said, where else have I heard standard, used? But
that's all right. He's one of my best friends. He can steal from me.
It's good that
still for the best, man. Still for the best.
Exactly. It's good that coaches do that. So I want to ask you a question along those lines. Maybe in Marvin Ridge and Myers Park geographically are close enough that when you come back and you take that, you can find some people that had coached with you that are aligned with you.
Absolutely.
But when you go to Clayton and you've got to, I don't know if you're on your own, but you are all virtually on your own, and you have to kind of put those kinds of people around you, and you can't build a standard if your core group of leaders are in alignment with you. How do you manage that?
It was honestly probably at Clayton was as difficult as any place I've been, because as you just said, when I went from Marvin to Myers Park, I took guys with me. There were some kids that played for me at Marvin that went with me to Myers Park. I was very fortunate my first year to have Drew Whitman, who's of course left me and then has been at Country Day ever since. But I had Drew, who was a coach's son who totally understood things. But Nate Poole, who had been with me at Marvin, came with me. So I was fortunate to be able to have some guys that that went with me. But when I got to Clayton, obviously we're in a whole different part of the state. And then I got that job in June. So I left the University of Maryland in the middle of June. So when you get to a school in the middle of June and you're playing a game in 2 months, and by the way, my first year I walked in the door and they said, oh, by the way, your non-conference schedule is Grimsley and then Wake Forest. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? That was our first 2 games right off the bat were Grimsley, and I think Grimsley won the state title that year. And then we played Wake Forest, and they were still, the Wake Forest of old then. So I didn't have time to really build a staff. And so what I've really done to kind of answer your question is I've really taken those guys that were here and kind of trained them to be, what I want them to be. And then I was able to convince Michael Seelan, who had been with me the whole time at Myers Park. I convinced him and his wife to relocate to Clayton from Charlotte. And so that helped me out to have him. And I think at that point, like I said, when I'm in the situation I'm in, you've got to take the guys that are with you and kind of train them to do things the way that you want to do them. And, obviously it's worked. We had back-to-back 10-win seasons. The first time that's happened here in over 20 years. So, it's working, and, we'll see where we end up this year. But, I think that's what you got to do then is if you can't bring the people you want, you train the people you have.
Train the people you have. And culture, that's all part of that culture thing that is so important to developing a successful program. And Jim, if I can find the video, I'll put it up. But okay. Scott's got a whole list of things that make up the standard.
See what like for us to do though, if Coach Chadwick, if you don't mind staying on, want to get your opinion about some stuff we had to do with the coach's wife that had to do with the negativity. I don't know if Scott.
I may need to put my glasses on to read this one.
Man, I'm in my mid 50s here. It's the RJ Reynolds coach.
And by the way, I got plenty of time. I'm in no hurry, so y'all keep me as long as you want. My wife's going to. When I told her I wasn't coming home after the radio show, said she was going to bed.
So it's basically
all right.
The same kind of stuff. You had a chance to read over it.
I got it. Yeah.
You got the gist.
I you see certain things, several things like that, that people put out like that. And it all rings true for you as a coach. I joked about you guys not, being in it, for the money. I can assure you there's no high school coaches in North Carolina that are getting rich doing this. And so we're all in this for other reasons. And yeah, we're all competitive. Maybe this fills a competitive itch, no doubt. But we're all here, for the kids, and we're all here to try to make, kids better human beings and give them a better chance to succeed in life. Nobody is out here to try to, ruin some kid's career or anything like that. And I can understand, the frustrations of sitting up in the stands and being a wife and hearing people say things about, your husband, when the wife is the one that knows the sacrifices that, come into play, and the sacrifices that, that coaches' families go through. And my wife, I joke all the time, this is my 25th year as a head coach. And I think the only time she has ever said anything to anybody in the stands about anything was when my son was our quarterback, and they would say stuff about him. I think she kind of got to the point, she said, you can talk about my husband all you want. Don't talk about my son. So, I think she kind of lets that stuff roll off of her. But at the same time, you want people to understand the sacrifices that coaches and their families have to deal with. And, my daughter just married a college football coach, and my wife is like, what are you doing? Have you not paid attention all these years?
Yeah. Don't talk about a mom's son at a football game.
That's the thing I don't like doing, though. I don't like watching a game in the stands at all, because I hate hearing stupidity. And if you want to hear a lot of stupid stuff, it's just sit there in the fans. You get a couple of loudmouths that feel like they know everything because they watched football.
I made that mistake. We had a bye last week, and I went and watched Garner play, and I was sitting in the stands, and I had to walk away. I'm like, man, what am I listening to here? So,
Scott, what bothers me more than that is to hear fans curse at and down talk players on the field from the stands. And that happens so much.
These are 16, 17-year-old kids, and that completely boggles my mind that someone would talk about another person's child, like that. And that's the biggest thing is, and that's, I've always said that to people when you're sitting in the stands, you don't know whose family is sitting near you, whether it be a kid's family or a coach's family. And they just, I don't know. They don't deserve that.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to say, and I know we're going to move on, about 15 years ago, Scott, when Carolina varsity had forums and things, I had a player from Mooresville contact me, and he was a kicker. And he asked me, how did he handle it? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, these three men stand at the fence and they yell at me as I'm leaving the game. And it shook me so much, I changed my schedules that week, and I went to Mooresville. I saw that they had a home game, and I messaged them back. I said, I'll see you. And I wanted to see what was happening. And sure enough, these three men, old men, as old as me or older, stood at that fence as the players left the game and heckled that young man who was, I don't know, I can't remember. He's probably 16, 17 years old. I stopped and I had a conversation with them. And first they got real defensive and like, who am I? And I'm like, who are you?
Doesn't really matter who you are. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. That whole thing is. What's that?
I'm sorry. I was asking Scott if he knows that guy below him.
I do. Good old Mike, man. He's one of the best.
What's up, guys? Yeah.
Scott, much, Mike.
Great seeing you on here. This guy right here now, I'll tell you, I've played many games that we followed, maybe the team he's played when he was at Marvin Ridge, and we would go when I was at Kannapolis, and we'd go and play Charlotte Catholic, and he had already played them. And this guy had him nailed. I mean, he always gave me a nugget every time we went and played those guys. That was extremely helpful. Awesome football coach, awesome man. I appreciate everything that you've ever helped me with and done for me, man. That's it's been awesome. It was a real surprise to see you on here, man. Awesome.
No, means a lot coming from you, Coach.
You know, two coaches here, and Coach Chadwick, Coach Newsome's on because he runs a play that is one of my favorite plays. And we got to talking about it at a game back a few weeks ago. And Coach Newsome, what did you say about that play as far as Mecklenburg County is concerned?
So, we talked about it in a play that we run, and I've thought about this for years. So a play we run at Butler and that I got from Coach Shuford that was at Butler before me was the play is called 28-29G. It is a wing T. It's a kind of a I don't know if I can say politically correct what we call it. It is a version of a wing T play, buck sweep. It's not a true, like a lot of people think buck sweep and wing T, they think of Charlotte Catholic, and the way Charlotte Catholic has run it has been kind of, 4 yards in a cloud of dust type thing. And ours was more, get your athletes in space and let them get out and run the ball on the outside. And I truly believe that if you look at the history of that play, that it may be one of the top plays that is run in this Piedmont Charlotte region over the last probably 25 years. There's a lot of history behind it, a lot of thought that went into that before I said that, because that's a bold statement. But the players that we had run it, the number of teams that were successful doing it, and the number of teams that we gave fits to that couldn't stop it was unbelievable. And so I wanted to first start with kind of the history of it. Coach Shuford, this is Coach Shuford's play. This is Coach Barry Shuford's play. I think Coach Shuford is one of the most underrated coaches in this area. I mean, he's won at places that not many people has won at, running this buck sweep that we ran. And it goes back to, I think Bessemer City. I'm not sure of the exact record, but, he was the head coach at Bessemer City. That Bessemer City had not done well and not won a lot of games, and he had those guys winning. He moved to Garinger, and Garinger had not won a whole lot and had Garinger in a draw, and that's before, back then, not everybody made the playoffs, kind of like they do now. Back then, it was really just 1 or 2 teams from your conference that made the playoffs, and he had them in a draw because, remember, you used to have to go pick out of a hat if you tied for the conference. If you tied for a playoff spot, you had to go draw out of a hat to see who made the playoffs. And he, so he did that with nobody had really won, and nobody still really won consistently at Garinger. Come to Butler with that play, and we opened up Butler with that play, and that was the foundation of our offense. The 28 and 29G, the dive that comes with it, and then the bootleg and the different plays that come off of it, it was tremendous, and we were able to immediately start winning at Butler with Coach Shuford at the helm and running that play. And then as soon as and that's close to being it. That's your traditional wing T buck sweep. We would run it a little bit differently. We would only pull the front side guard with it. We did kind of move to where we would call a backside play with it. But that's close to it. That's more like Charlotte Catholic's wing T there, not so much like ours. But we took that play and kept running. I saw how many people that it gave fits to. So when I become the head coach at Butler, we just kept running it, and we rode that play, and the players that ran it and the coaches that coached it all the way to 2 state championships. Coach Shuford, if you follow Coach Shuford's lineage, we left Butler, went to Parkwood and won at Parkwood High School running that play, left Parkwood, went to Olympic, and not that Olympic's ever been, just a bad team, but had them winning a lot of football games and there. Went to East Meck and won, and actually kind of talked to Coach Hales about it the other day, beat Butler with that play, running it when he was the head coach at East Meck back a time ago. So he's been successful running that play forever. I left Butler and took that play and immediately, again, the base of my offense is that play. Put it in at A.L. Brown. A.L. Brown has a history of very, very strong players and very, very strong teams. The first year we were there running that play, we broke every offensive record that A.L. Brown has ever had, both in scoring and yardage and rushing yardage. I think we had 3 guys that almost rushed for 1,000 yards. Definitely had 3 guys that had over 1,000 yards total offense, a piece running that play. And rode that play all the way through. Matter of fact, I can remember different times when we were in some leagues that probably we shouldn't have been in with, with Mallet Creek. The couple years we were in the Mecca, I think it was called then, but we had, Mallet Creek and Vance at that time, Chambers now, and Huff. And probably we were the smallest 4A school in the state at that time. And we beat Vance every year but once. Running that play. And then Mike Palmieri, that's when they were winning all their state championships. When we left the conference, he said, "Man, I can't wait till you get out of this conference. I'm so tired of trying to defend that buck sweep." So it was a tough play to run, tough play to defend. So we carried it out and kept running it. And then look what Coach Hales has done with it, continuing running it at Butler the whole time, won another state championship with it himself. And then continued running it. But it is, I think, if you look at that play across the board and you went back and did the statistics on it, I would have to say from scrimmage yards, that play has probably gained as many yards as any other play that's been in this Charlotte region, maybe in the state of North Carolina. We didn't come short of scoring points when we were at Butler and even those first couple of years at A.L. Brown. But I would always say that's a Coach Shuford play, and I commend him for running it and sticking with it and doing it and passing it on to all these coaches that have run it throughout these years. But I will also be the first one to say that when you start thinking of plays, and I'm sure Coach Chadwick would say the same thing, when the game's on the line, don't think of plays, think of players. And you get the ball in your best players' hands, and sometimes those guys for us that ran that 28 and 29G were some of the best athletes on the field. Take a Kenny Moore, who at one time was the all-time leading receiver in the ACC history, broke Torrey Holt's record at one time for receptions in a season, receptions in a career. He was a fabulous player that run that play. I would do a disservice to sit here and name players because I would leave somebody out that was just absolutely fabulous at running that play. And I wish I had some true film on it because, that guy there, the fullback running the base off of it, that's a good way. And we had great guys that run that play too, with a Ryan Houston and Khalif Phillips and Damon Washington, some of the guys I had at Kannapolis. But the waggle, a lot of people call it the waggle, the bootleg off of it. And just the numerous plays. I mean, we actually moved and used a lot of no huddle with it and would go unbalanced real fast because people just couldn't adjust to the unbalanced as fast as we would run it. Just unbelievable plays. I wish I'd have kind of thought about it. I'd have to download a lot of film because I've got some things on it that we could show with Butler. And this is kind of more of the, again, Charlotte Catholic type of stuff. Not so much hand it to those athletes and get it in space and let those kids run. I actually went to the game at Butler this past Friday night and saw one of the fabulous guys that run this play, Anthony Short, that used to run this play for us. And I think Langston gave him a nickname at one time. It was PlayStation or Xbox or something like that. But that guy was phenomenal running that play. He had to counter off of it. That was great play. Prince Parker, rest his soul, was one that also ran it for us back when Coach Shuford was calling it. Just tons of players, which helps any play, right? Coach Chadwick, if you got good players, they can run about anything that you need them to run. But the big thing about it is if you had 3 kids that were selfless, that didn't mind blocking for each other as much as running and didn't mind running a play fake, you could really, really run that play successfully. Because a lot of times that one slot or that one wing would have to block for the other one, and he understood that that in order for him to be successful run the ball, somebody was going to have to block for him. And when you could get that selfless team going, then you could be very, very successful. And it was just a great play. It was a great play. I loved it. Still love it. I would run it every time. Right now, I'm coaching middle school football right now, and we were struggling on offense. And if I could have figured out how to put it in the 3 days of practice we had before our next game, I'd have put it in. There is no doubt.
I was going to say, Mike,
Coach,
you need some help. Get Dale some barbecue. He'll probably come up there and help you out with installing some.
Coach, I had so many arguments with people that this is a wing tee because nobody could believe you guys were running a wing tee, and I tried to tell them there's many variations of a wing tee.
Right.
There's the Delaware wing tee. There's
Maryland,
which I think Catholic runs more of a Maryland type of wing tee. I think I'm right in that assessment. Delaware is even more cloud of dust type of an offense.
I would probably have been one of those people arguing with you that it was wing tee because I grew up in a area where we had a school that was very successful in my hometown, McDonough High School, and won 3 state championships when I was growing up, and they ran the Delaware wing. I mean, they would go to Tubby Raymond's camp in Delaware and run it. And they learned it right from the creator. And it was the Buck series was obviously a staple of their offense. The sweep, the fullback, either the fullback dive or the fullback trap and the waggle off of it. I watched that, quite a bit growing up. And ironically, the guy that was the coach at McDonough during those years is Larry Johnson, who has been the long-time defensive line coach at Ohio State. And before that, he was the D-line coach at Penn State. So I've known Coach Johnson since I was literally like 8 years old. And he coached – my dad was the coach at my high school. So as a kid, I would watch film of that offense. And so I saw that. And then my first job as an assistant, I worked at a school that ran the wing tee. And so I've seen that play. I've coached that play. I can't say I ran that play a lot. I was the last few years when, particularly I wasn't one of the Charlotte guys that ran it because, my last couple of years in Charlotte, I had a guy that could throw it around pretty good. So that's
pretty good guy. You pitch it around. But I even went back and watched the state championship games, and we had those same All-American quarterback type kids too. And you look at how much we run under center, running that play. It does. I've seen people try to run it from the gun. I've tried to run it from the gun. I watched the game, the Monday Night Football game, and just sat here and kind of counted how many times I see more pro teams. I see more college teams now getting back under center now.
I think one of the reasons people really had got away from that and being under center was when you went to the dual threat quarterbacks. Right. Your quarterback is just not as much of a run threat when he's under center.
That's correct.
And I think that's why, there's been such a switch to so much run out of the gun because your quarterback is so much more of a threat when he's in the gun than when he's under center.
Right. Yeah. Agree.
The big thing that makes it obviously different is that in your version, or we'll say Schuford's version, is it utilizes athletes and that you do throw out of it. Butler was very successful throwing. Olympic had some of its best passing under Schuford, but I would say there may be more.
I was at Myers Park the whole time that Barry was at East Mech, and I'm going to tell you, I hated East Mech. I hated playing them. I hated playing that offense every week. Our kids would much rather go play, Huff or somebody that was going to, throw it around and had great athletes. We'd much rather do that than get in the phone booth with, Barry and his double tights running all that stuff. And those kids were never more sore than they were after, playing East Met.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do when you're a team. And there were times at Butler that we were, of course, much better athletically than some of the teams we were facing, and we didn't have to do some of those things. But a lot of times when I was at Kannapolis and we were playing Mallard Creek and Huff, and the same thing with East Meck when they were playing you guys in Myers Park and the other team, Butler, and the teams in that league at that time. I mean, you had to find ways to win. I told Mike Palmieri if we'd have had a 40-second clock like they got now instead of a 25-second clock, we might have been able to win a couple of those games.
No doubt.
Because I would sit in the huddle and just look at the clock. I'd sit there and watch the clock and call a play and told our kids ahead of time to be very, very patient. I mean, if you look at what they didn't, Butler wasn't successful, but that's exactly what they did this past week against West Charlotte and gave themselves a chance to win towards the end of the game, even though I think they scored one late, but it was 14-0, going late into the fourth quarter against West Charlotte, who is one of the best teams in the state of North Carolina. So, I think you can do a lot of things with it, and again, which leads to success and leads to me saying that I think it's one of the very best plays that's been run in this region because of the amount of success that it's had with the teams that have run it, and again, Coach Shuford, Coach Hales, myself, and then the other coaches that have even picked it up. I know there's plenty of teams. I'll watch tape of other teams and say, well, there it is. Somebody else is running it there. So. And I've talked to a lot of people about running it over the years. And again, I would run it today and every single day. It would be the base of my offense. It wouldn't be all the offense, but it would be the base of it, no doubt.
I guarantee you Brandon Sneed is running it.
Brandon Sneed and I talk a lot about that play, and it's his go-to if he needs to go to it. And I'll tell you, I think if Barry Merritt, who was my OC at A.L. Brown, is now at Mallard Creek, and if he had his way a little bit, sometimes he would run it there too. So I think it's a fabulous play. I think I still see the history of football kind of turns over all the time, and it'll eventually work itself back to running that way. You see people all the time. Triple option is coming more of a thing. A lot of people talk. I look at what I'll tell you what. I look at offense. Coach Abel, that was at Davidson. Davidson hadn't won before and hadn't won after, but he won there. And look what he's going to Rice running this gun triple option. I mean, it is unbelievable, his offense and what he does. I watched them just destroy Charlotte, on TV, running that play, running that gun triple option or whatever, spread option or whatever he calls it. But all it is triple option from the gun.
They actually had our quarterback committed there for a while, and NC State came in and stole him.
Yeah. Well, they do that. Yeah, they do that.
Well, guys, we've talked about a lot of good stuff today, and Dale, we need to get over to Clayton sometime to catch up with Scott. There's a pretty good place. I think it's called J Stop that has a pretty good brisket over in Clayton. And,
there's a couple of places there. There's one right outside of Clayton called Redneck Barbecue.
Oh, okay.
It's as good as. Well, it depends what you want. I think J-Tops has better actual pork. The ribs and the burnt ends and the brisket and the chopped chicken are probably better at Redneck.
Okay, gosh, I love
it. I probably just got myself in trouble. But
they say you're going to start paying for your meals up there.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a bunch of good stuff today, guys. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming in here. Mike, Scott, it's always good to catch up with you, man. It's been a couple of years since I've been down to Clayton. I need to maybe I'll be over there during the playoffs sometime. But
I appreciate you guys having me. Any chance I can get back into Charlotte, I had a great time coaching and living there, and my sons and my grandkids are there. So yeah, it's still a big part of my life.
Man, try out Hillsborough.
Join us on a Friday night. We're still doing Friday nights. We just switched it to this format. If you get time,
I will. Hopefully, my Friday nights aren't free for a while.
Yeah, your Friday nights pretty much.
I mean, afterwards.
Afterwards, I got you. I got you.
If you get time, call in and tell us about your game. You can do it on audio.
We'll do.
Well, guys, just thank you so much from Jim West and Dale Ross with Talking Preps OT. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.